Welcome to another edition of Game Changers. So, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders all over the world that are redefining what's possible in their category, in their niche, in their business. And today's episode is brought to you by X100. And today we are very, very blessed. We have somebody very special. Her name is Paloma Riego. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did.
All right. And she is an architect by training who spent nearly a decade building her career in Washington, D.C. before coming home to Puerto Rico to help lead her family's nearly 35-year-old business. And what fascinates me about Paloma isn't just that she stepped back into a legacy business, but she's growing it to the next level. She's transforming it. She's having a hand in building Generation 2.0 of this business. It's a community to help other next generation leaders wrestle. And actually, one of the conversations is we're going to be talking about the exact question that she's living herself is how do you honor what you inherited and still build and recreate and transform and honor that legacy and take it a step further. So, Paloma, we have so much to get to. I want to start actually at the very beginning. Who were you when you were growing up? And what was it like growing up around a business built to serve first responders?
So, we have this wonderful picture that resurfaced when we joined the business in 2020 of my parents, my grandfather, my uncle, and my brother and I. We were probably 3 and 5 or 6 at a convention, outdoor convention of first responders, and we were working the booth. And so who we were and who I was growing up, we grew up in the business. My mom had a spa and my dad had industrial fire products, which was, is what Paladius is today. All of our afternoons and whenever there was an event, we were in the business. So all of our dinner conversations had to do with what was going on in the office. My grandmother also had a hair salon where my mom's spa was. So it's been a very entrepreneurial family since the beginning. But at the same time, I will say my parents never forced us to work in the business. So we also had our childhood. There was a lot of protection in us being kids and playing with our friends and doing like our extracurricular sports activities. I grew up I was actually since a child sailing team, since the Optimist and then Lacers. And so there was a lot of protection of still having a childhood, but there was a huge awareness of we were an entrepreneurial family and there was 2 businesses that were running and, sustaining our life. And it was like we fed off of each other. So it's very natural for me to now come back into it. It's felt very natural to just come back.
I love this. And can you tell me more about working the booth? I have this picture in my head. Paint that picture of you. And it was you and your
I
brother,
need to
did you
show you
say?
that picture. So yeah, so it was like my parents, my grandfather, who was our runner at the time when he he retired and was helping my parents. And then my uncle worked at the time with my parents, and my brother and we were just, I think I am, my brother's on the floor. I'm like being held by my mom, and they're working the table, and there's first responders like from the other side, getting information about the company. So it was, and I have memories of us going to like first responder competitions, events that they used to do in the weekends to raise funds or awareness and, help the first responder community, which doesn't unfortunately make enough money just doing that. So there's a lot of events that used to happen a lot more in the 80s and the 90s just to support them. And my parents, we as a company, we always went to those events. And so that is, I've had t-shirts of the company throughout the years when we would volunteer and work. And when we went off to college, if for some reason during my time in Puerto Rico there was a convention happening, I would go and work the booth and help set up and do all the things that were required.
That's so great. And what kind of kid were you? Were you gung ho about it? Were you a little bit like, oh, I don't want to do this? Or where were you kind of in your headspace with that?
I think it helped a lot that my parents didn't force us to do it. And so it was very kind of fluid and optional. In the afternoons, I was always worked and supported in any way that I could. So I must say, but I was always more interested in this business than
Mm.
in my mother's spa, because they were both running at the same time. So I've always, most really always volunteered for the industrial fire or Palladius work and not that much for the spa side of things.
Interesting. So there was some earlier signs or early signs that you would be involved. Were there any early signs that you would one day run the business?
Not at all. None at all. I always had like an artistic side, an interest for architecture. And my mother always, supported and fed art classes and programs, like pre-college programs in local architecture schools. So I did two of those. And so there was never the thought that I would come or my brother would come and join the business and kind of help it build the next chapter of it. Absolutely. It was definitely a voluntary surprise, I think, for everybody involved.
Now I'm curious, and I was looking at this with your mom's spa business and this, where literally you're serving people that are running into danger. Both are about self care and caring for people, but
Mhm.
in a very very different way.
Different way.
What did some of that? How did you choose that one? And what do you think it was about your DNA, your makeup, where you chose that one, where you're serving people literally running into danger to protect the rest of us?
Unofficially, we still have the spa and we're involved behind the scenes. It's just I don't see myself running it day to day. But I do believe that there was something that I saw in my parents, and the way they served in a completely like giving way and genuine way, and supporting people that had such a vocation to risk their lives for others. All of the first responders and utility workers and even construction workers that now are serving that market. Like these are people that wake up every day not expecting necessarily a huge paycheck, understanding that their call might come and they are not going to be home for dinner to for their family, for the kids. So seeing the passion that my dad had for that community, um, made it very clear to us, my brother and I, um, that we wanted to make sure that that level of passion and service was continued moving forward. And we just weren't sure that somebody else outside of the family was going to be able to deliver that. So just honoring that passion and commitment to serving those that risk their lives for the greater community was a huge calling for me. And what really made that was the trigger to say, I want to give it a shot to see how I can do it, and make sure that we can keep it in the family and continuing that level of excellence that my dad has built the reputation of the company on.
Paloma, I'm curious, as you describe that, I'm wondering if there's a moment in your youth when that business became more, you saw the mission rather than just the business. It wasn't about dollars and cents, but there's a mission behind it, serving first responders. Was there a handful of moments or things that occurred in your life where you're like, wow, this is actually a bigger deal than just a business?
There were big projects along the way that made me realize the impact that we were having in the local community. But I must say that I was still professionally too disengaged from understanding that I could actually be happy in the day to day in this business. It wasn't until I transitioned from design into working with a general contractor, back in DC, that I saw myself as this middle person in handling all these moving parts, like the contractor, like the subcontractors, the design team, the specialty consultants, that I was like, oh my God, this is what Paladius does. We
Hmm.
are the middle person that connects the first responders in need with top of the line manufacturers in the States. For the 95% of the lines we represent are in the States. And so this is what I've been training for and what I've been trained on isn't so different to what we do. So why not apply that into the business that my family does? And it's so powerful to what we do with the community.
Was there a moment or an event that occurred that kind of triggered or signaled that you were going to step into this business and get really involved in it?
So I had never thought of moving back to Puerto Rico until Hurricane Maria in 2017. Um, actually, so yeah, when Hurricane Maria happened, it was the first time that I hadn't been able to communicate with my family for over 3 or 4 days until we were able to have phone communication. And seeing from the outside, having, being in DC and seeing the devastation, because there was like media coverage and we saw the island completely shut down, and some images starting to emerge of the devastation, there was a level of anxiety that I knew we had, Palladius was in the position to help, but not being able to contact firsthand and see what they were able to do from here. That was the first inkling that I might be wanting to come and make sure that I am firsthand involved in, if ever, hopefully not, but if we were able to encounter and experience any natural disaster like that, that I could be part of the solution from inside Palladius.
Hmm. Was it an easy decision after Hurricane? It was a difficult decision.
Yes. Yes. I loved, I was very much uh, in a rocket ship, trajectory in my career. I loved my life. I loved my family, my extended family in DC. My husband is from the DC area. Um, and the career that I was building, I was working on amazing projects in the DC area, associations, law firms. Um, and it was, as much as I was torn, as much as I wanted to be with my family and work on this project that had been going on for 25 years at the time, and we knew the possibilities of the future. It was still a very bittersweet and hard moment to give that notice to my boss and say, it's time for me to give this other thing a shot. My mom likes to say that I am more I am more of a mainlander than an islander. I became a woman in the States, and so the way I think, the way I just think of everyday life conveniences and things like that. So it was definitely an adjustment to move back and embrace this new reality. But I think throughout the process, I found and identified that my why for vast majority of my life was family. And so none of the success or, the career achievements that I was having and, accomplishing in DC were just not enough if I wasn't sharing with my immediate family.
Hmm.
And that's, it was a juxtaposition of sentiment and compromises that we had to make. And I'm 6 years in, I'm really happy I did it.
I love that. So there's a fork in the road. It's a tough decision. And Hurricane Maria, you said.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes, but we still waited 3 years after Hurricane Maria to move. So Hurricane Maria was 2017, and then we finally moved in 2020, when the pandemic hit.
Okay. And you come back and join the business. And was there a key moment when you all of a sudden realized, I'm going to lead this thing. I'm going to take the helm and move this forward.
It had been a family conversation that my parents were going to step down 5 years after we arrived. But it was also very hard for all of us to meet, because of my parents, my brother and I work here. We're still very much active. They're still very much active, and we're in it. So it's been very hard for my father to let go, because this is his baby. This is his passion project. This is the reason he wakes up every day. But I must say, this year, it got to the point this year that I finally stepped up and claimed my sector, the sector of the business that I want to develop. And I've kind of positioned myself and stepped up to the plate and built relationships with customers, because I have always dealt with suppliers, but not so much the customers. And when my father saw me not performing, but like embracing that side and building the rapport with the customers, it was, I think, when we all kind of everything shook into place and we're like, okay, we are truly getting ready for that transition. And I'll tell you, it took 6 years to get to that point.
Wow. Wow. And then around it was 2022 when you renamed the company from Industrial Fire Products to Palladius.
Yes.
Uh, can you tell me a little bit about the decision to rename it and how did you come up with the name and what was that process like?
Absolutely. So when my brother and I had conversations of coming and joining the business, we knew that the vision, because my brother's an electrical engineer, I bring the architecture and construction background. Um, so we knew that although first responders are the core of our business, we had the reach to support other industries with the suppliers that we have, the manufacturers that we represented. So that name limited us in terms of end users and building supplier relationships.
Mm,
So one of the things that we had mentioned was that we were going to have to talk about the name at some point.
mm,
And we, in 2021, we did a program that an amazing entrepreneurial support cohort here in Puerto Rico called Grupo Guayacan. They have a program called the GVA, Growth Venture Accelerator for companies, for mature companies in growth that are in their growth process. And I call it a crash course MBA. And one of
mm.
the classes was branding. And so we talked about it, and my brother, my dad, and I did that program. And within the conversation, we're like, look, this is part of us being able to get to the next level. We really have to reevaluate the name. And the program ended in December, and we started getting, my brother and I worked on marketing quotes. Caveat, this company had maybe spent $1,500 in marketing in 28 years. Like, there's no belief in investing in marketing or anything like that, branding whatsoever. So we present 2 or 3 companies, finally get them on board to consider and go through the process. It was a really tall mountain to climb because he was really not on board. But we finally get to the moment where the company is presenting to us 2 or 3 alternatives. And I must say that Paladius was so good that we don't even remember the other names they presented to us.
Mm.
We worked with the firm, they did focus groups, they met our customers, they did, all the good research that probably we could do a lot easier with AI these days, but that was
Yeah.
a few years ago. Um, and they presented Palladius. Palladius means to have the qualities of Pallas Athena,
Mm.
which is she is the guardian of warriors on Greek
Love that.
mythology. And so when we heard that whole, that context and the protector of heroes, and how the owl was the symbol of protection and wisdom and courage, we're like, that is what we want to do. We want to be
Perfect.
that for all the heroes, regardless of the industry that they're in. And we fell in love with the name. We loved being able to break out from the reds or the blues. So being able to have that hunter green color in our brand put us completely, set us aside from any of our competitors. So the whole package of the brand, we are very proud of that process, and we truly love it. And it's been embraced by even the more hardcore industrial fire products customers now say Palladius without question.
I love that. And that answers my next question, which was I was wondering how your dad would feel about changing a name that he came up with. He built this business, but my guess is I mean, it's just such a strong brand.
Yes, when we did all these communications to our partners, our business partners, suppliers, and then our end users, and we received so much support from partners that had known us since the beginning. One thing that's very valuable, this is small parentheses in the story, like the way my parents built the business, when suppliers would visit from the States, they would have business dinners. And many times like we would join those dinners. So these all these members of our partners are extended family of ours. A lot, a few of them went to my wedding.
Mm.
So now I get to negotiate contracts with people that I've known for 30 years. And now they are going through a transition. So it's just a very beautiful, beautiful part of the business that I cherish a lot. And so for my father to receive support and kind of encouragement and admiration from all these people that he respects a lot in the industry for what this name and how it would position us in the industry, from their perspective, I think was very comforting for him. And knowing that it hadn't been a bad decision, and
Mm.
having that commercial support from big corporations in the States, and seeing how that positioned us, and also from their perspective helped us open up to new markets,
Mm.
because of the brand that we were building, and that there was continuity also with the second generation. He has, it took him maybe a year or so, but he's fully Team Palladius now.
Leadership. You've had some pretty great leaders in your life. You're a member of
Mhm.
entrepreneur organization with other great
Mhm.
leaders. You've become a great leader. First person that comes to mind when you think of some of the great leaders that shaped you growing up. Your dad, was it your grandfather was in the business as well? Did I hear?
So he supported, in all the day-to-day kind of, runners with things that had to be done. But I would say my mother.
Right.
My mother is the big leader in our family, mom and dad, but definitely, Nivea, my mom, she is a powerhouse. And I think sometimes she's not aware of the impact that she's had in our lives. She's run the administration of both businesses forever. She started working she was very young with my grandmother at the hair salon, and became an esthetician before she even graduated high school. And she has always directed our family in terms of our finances, our priorities, the support to go and study abroad, and go to the States, have the experience of a semester abroad. She has always been the key to the next big step or big success. So the way she has led our family and the businesses is definitely the compass of my life.
If you were going to boil her philosophy or what you would imagine her leadership philosophy would be into a sentence or a billboard, what do you suppose that would be?
Where there is a will, there's a way. Yeah, she is definitely where there's a will, there's a way kind of person. She has a hard time with people with limiting beliefs and that see the no's before the yeses. Um, so yeah, when we have a big project, or some complex opportunity, she wants to look at the big picture, and then all the pieces will fall into place to make it happen.
What's the hardest piece of advice you've ever gotten from someone in the business? And I've got some follow-ups, but what's some of the best advice you've gotten? And what's some of the worst advice you've ever gotten in your career?
I would say the best advice has been always, to value the experience and perspective of the founder of the company, even if for me it's been hard to understand. Because the second generations has a very different role in a family business, and so we bring in a lot of energy, a lot of experiences from corporate America, and in my case. And so coming with that energy, and I am a very passionate and ambitious woman. And so coming into a different man's world, because I was in construction in DC, which is also a man's world. So coming into this one, um, it was very difficult to have so much clash with my father. And having a mentor tell me, just be a little bit more like Socrates and listen.
Mm.
Um, and not, listen and then just kind of simmer in with that information and then go back to the conversation and see if you can see it from a different perspective. So that has been, that was one of the best advice that I've gotten and has really helped me and improve my relationship and
Mm.
communication with the day-to-day operations of the business with my dad.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about some of the worst advice? I remember when I was in advertising, someone just gave me a piece of advice. I thought about that. I thought that is literally the worst advice I've ever gotten, and I'm not going to take it. Do you remember a time when somebody gave you advice and maybe you followed it and then like, why did I do that?
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
have you ever received just bad advice? What's the worst advice you ever got where you thought there's zero chance I'm going to do that?
Um, I think it's not only in the business, but as I said, I am very ambitious. And so I have gotten the advice, and I think you and I have talked about this in some of the calls, is like you need to focus on just Palladius. You need to put all your energy in, in the business. But to me, and I've tried it. I've had chunks of time where I'm not gonna hold any of my other extracurricular, roles or associations and just focus on this. But I, in my case, I have came to understand that I am a better leader when I feed off and gain perspective from all those other associations and then bring it into the business. So having that silo mentality of just focus on one thing and pour your heart and soul into it. My thing is that my whole heart and soul is not complete if I don't have all those other spaces that feed me as a leader, as a human, give me perspective. So that has
Mm,
been in my case.
I love that. I want to ask a different question now about advice. What's maybe the toughest advice you've ever got where you saw it from a unique angle? And I'll give you just a quick example. With my previous company, somebody pulled me aside, an EOer pulled me aside and said, your ego is getting in the way of your education because you think you have to have all the answers and you don't.
Mhm.
You need to
Mhm.
listen to your team more and give them a voice and ownership. And that was a hard
Mhm.
thing for me to hear. Can you remember a time when you got some tough advice and you had the wisdom or the opportunity to, or both, to step back and say, it's good advice and I'm going to take it?
It's definitely happened with my father once or twice in these last few years, but I think the most important one has been on how to manage our team. He has a very different perspective on managing people, but at the same time, he has a wealth of knowledge on how the business truly runs. And so he's like, you can listen to them, you can hear all their requests, all their great ideas, but focusing on business one-on-one, on like what are the products that are truly profitable for the business. Let's not follow every shiny opportunity. And as a new leader managing us, helping manage a team and the operations of a business in growth, in a growth process, our sales teams gets very excited and just anything new that comes in, and having the authority and the clarity to discern what is a good opportunity and what really falls in line with the core of our business. And just making sure that the leadership and the direction that we grow and what we follow is in line with that. So just having the discernation to truly identify what is a good opportunity and what is not. So now I always have that voice in my head of my dad telling me what to do and what not. What's a good opportunity and what's not.
When people look at Palladius, many people see a flourishing company, a growing company, a company that's serving the community, serving an amazing group of first responders. What have been some of the trade-offs of success growing a business? What are some of the things that people don't see about running a business day to day, growing a business day to day, creating new markets, innovating? What are some of the things that people don't see?
I think as a family business, the peculiarity of it, in many ways, is that especially in this phase of growth, there is a lot of compromise that you do as a family. And so the integrity of your core family and the relationships that happen sometimes get weakened by going and working and being so focused on the next phase of the company, of the next chapter of Paladius. So that is a trade-off that we'd had to do. And luckily we've had the maturity, and I am a big proponent of, again, protecting my family because that is my big why. So having that awareness of when we are getting weak as a core family and where we have to really prioritize that versus constantly talking about business
Mm.
or focusing on how to fix the team. Well, we need to fix ourselves first and before being able to fix the team. So that has been a process.
Love it. And we were talking before the podcast about you have a date night tonight too, to
Yes.
preserve that
Yeah, and
amazing
so
time.
because my husband also works here.
Mm.
And so having his relationship with my dad for many, for almost 2 or 3 years before we had kids, my husband didn't want to see my parents on the weekends because he saw them Monday to Friday. So I'm like, I moved to Puerto Rico to be with my family, but now you don't want to see them because we work with them. So there's been a lot of that kind of turmoil going on behind the scenes that the people don't see on our Instagram, or they assume that we're still the happy family that we were before we all worked together. And no, it takes as much work, if not more, to protect our family than to grow the business.
What's the flip side? What's probably the biggest blessing or the biggest win or the surprising benefit of, like, you've got this family business, it's growing. What's something that you just were surprised about? It was like, I never would have even expected this, but this is one of the biggest blessings of all.
Like I say, one thing I will tell you this, I my brother is my neighbor. I never in a million years would have, if we said in the States, he was in New York, I was in DC, that would have never happened. We have kids that are, growing up together. And the professional relationships that I have been able to develop in Puerto Rico, I also never expected to do so. I was naive and ignorant, and I left Puerto Rico when I was when I graduated high school. So the level of just commitment to development of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Puerto Rico and being able to surround myself with these amazing professionals has been a huge blessing, and it has enriched my community and my network of people just by being able to have myself committed to growing this business.
Love that. Was there ever a moment when you're growing, like any one specific thing or a catastrophe or something that happened where it challenged your leadership where you thought, I don't know whether I could do this. I don't know whether I could do this. And then how did you marshal the resources? Because they obviously survived it and did it. But what was a moment that challenged you at your core? And then what was the process to break through?
We've had a few, but definitely I had some personal challenges last my last pregnancy, where it was such a high risk pregnancy that I had to move back to the States for 5 months to deliver my baby. And so I questioned if I was able to still be relevant in the leadership of the company, or if I was putting everything at risk, my life,
Mm.
out what we had committed to the business for the last 4.5 years before that happened. Um, but seeing how everything played out, I was also then very scared to come back and see how I would fit in, and could be able to roll back into my purpose and my role in the company. So there was a lot of uncertainty during that process. That was end of 2024, early 2025. But again, it all came down to seeing it was very powerful to see how my team stepped up and covered through that process, and how they were also eager for me to come back, and
Mm.
seeing that my role and what I had brought to the table had truly added value. I could only
Mm.
see that when I stepped away. So
Mm.
that was really powerful.
Mm. What was probably the biggest difference between 1.0 and 2.0 when you started to shape the business and drive the business forward? What were some of the biggest distinctions or the new direction that you put the business in?
We have, for starters, we have expanded and committed to our business outside of Puerto Rico. So we've grown our footprint of the market share that we had in the Caribbean. So U.S. Virgin Islands, Jamaica, starting to do business with Turks and Caicos, potentially Barbados. So we have definitely, now we are known in those islands that previously was only U.S. Virgin Islands. And my dad, he says he would have it like with a leash, like he didn't want to travel over there. He didn't, because he was looking on a way out. But we have strengthened and positioned Palladius in a very good, it's a very reputable company to support the first responders in those islands outside of Puerto Rico. And then
Mm.
we've also strengthened the position of first responders in Puerto Rico with technology.
Mm.
We've been at the forefront of bringing drone technology to be used as drone as a first responder, 3D lidar scanner technology for ease of anything from construction, scanning purposes to forensic evidence capturing data. So we've been pioneers in bringing technology to the local communities and the heroes to make sure they have the top of the line, not only in the loose equipment that we were known for, but also technology. And then also just committing ourselves to really protecting our brand and building it and being known, but also protecting the fact that we are aware of what we do. And unfortunately, in natural disasters or things like that is when we can, it's what we support. But we never market ourselves in an emergency. Our mission is to help first responders be prepared and heroes be prepared so that they're ready when the emergency comes. So also being sure that we maintain and protect the integrity of our business in that way has just been important to give that continuity.
I love that. And that was one of my next questions is technology. As I was doing research on Palladius, I saw that you guys are at the cutting edge and using just the very best technology and bringing that to the heroes that you
Mhm,
serve.
mhm.
Is there any other technologies that you would like people to know that you are introducing and helping keep people safe?
So our team, for the first time in the 30, almost 35 years I've been in business, we participated in the InnerSwitch, which is the biggest conference for the industry that takes place in Germany. And there, our team sort of explored because Europe is usually like 10 years ahead of what ends up coming to the US
Hmm.
in terms of this industry and a lot of others. But seeing the technology of the actual robots and how they can help, protect human life, reduce the risk on the heroes. And that is what we're looking at. We are looking at what is going to be our next partner to bring that technology into Puerto Rico and the Caribbean.
Mm.
So the robotic and humanoid robots for first responder and hero roles.
Yes. I'm thinking I kind of want to ask some questions about you as an entrepreneur too. What advice would you give 20-year-old Paloma? You know, 20-year-old Paloma, and when did you start your architect career?
So I graduated, I was probably 21, 19, 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, what advice would you give, 21-year-old Paloma as you started your career there?
Just pursue her pursue her dreams and enjoy the ride because it's going to be windy. Enjoy the ride because it's going to be windy. Like it's where I am today is not at all where I had envisioned my life would be. But it has been a wonderful ride. So just that's what I would tell her. And enjoy it, and every step of the way is gonna make sense, and you're gonna build the community and the tribe that's gonna lead you there.
Love it. Love it. In terms of the marketing, I feel
Hmm.
privileged because you joined the X100 program.
Hmm.
What was one of the biggest surprises when you first saw the workshop, and what made you think this AI powered marketing, this is for us?
We believe that we were under marketed. There was much more that us as a company could do to expand our reach and get into the new niches that we wanted to be able to tap into.
Mm,
So with the small team that we have, I knew that we had to kind of use the technology that was out there and the tools that were out there to be able to do it. And to be completely honest, Scott, I still think that we have more to like be able to squeeze the orange more, um, and capitalize more on everything that X100 has to offer because it's a lot.
awesome. Awesome. Where is Palladius going to be in 10, 20 years from now?
Mm. I've actually myself have been toying with that question recently because we want to be the top partner for the heroes within in the Caribbean. We want to be that, so, whenever they have a need, we are their solutions partner, regardless of if it's something that they think that we have or not. Because one of the challenges that we've had throughout the years is that customers kind of think of us for just one solution, whereas we can offer so much more. So we want to be able for the, we want to be known as a one-stop solution for heroes within the Caribbean.
Love it. Okay. I'm going to ask you like 8 rapid fire questions. First gut reaction to the
Okay.
answers. What's a book that everybody should read and why?
Recently, I read Start With Yourself. And honestly, it was an unexpected book for me to read, but the perspective that Emma brings to the book and the awareness as a young entrepreneur and as a woman, um, of all the different aspects of running a business and breaking off old thoughts and kind of traditional thoughts has been really instrumental in the last year of me kind of developing as a leader. So I will tell you that one.
Love it. This dovetails. If you could put one message on a billboard that every family business leader could see, what would that billboard say?
Don't get tied off to the old thoughts of the family. There's there's always room for the next generation, and you need to, embrace the chaos.
Embrace the chaos. What's a purchase under $100 that has improved your life disproportionately?
Under $100. Scott, that's a hard one. I don't We actually got a juicer recently that I'm pretty sure was not $100, but being able to make fresh squeezed orange juice every morning. I don't drink coffee, so that's like my ritual.
Yes.
And being able to do that before 6 a.m. every morning has been a game changer.
Love it. And this might be that. What habit or routine has the biggest positive impact on your personal performance?
Waking up at 5 a.m. and having an hour of quiet before my kids and my husband wake up, and being able to read or just organize my thoughts. That's when I do that, I'm a better person.
What advice do you hear all the time? People say it all the time. You hear the advice all the time, but you actually think to yourself, that's really bad advice. I'm never going to do that.
Go to the gym.
I love it.
I think
What?
you can work out at home and be as good.
Love it. What's one person living or dead you'd most like to have dinner with?
Somebody that I would want to have dinner with,
Yes, living or dead.
Barack Obama.
Love it. What's something you believe that most people in your industry would actually disagree with? What's something that you believe that other people might disagree with in your industry?
That for the industry is going to be taken over by technology.
When you feel overwhelmed or off your game or just not quite Paloma, what do you do to reset? What's your go-to recipe?
Go on a walk. Nature, ideally.
If you could teach every 25-year-old that's listening to this one lesson you learned the hard way, what would it be?
Just even when your parents don't agree with you or your plans, um, still give them, listen to them and give them space to catch up to what your plans really are.
Love it. And I have to ask this question. I was thinking about this as you were describing some of the heroes that you serve. Can you think of one experience that really sticks out of all the experience serving the first responders that is the most touching, close to your heart experience that just touched you as a human being?
A lot of prayer because my sales reps are the ones that really interact with them day to day. But we've had a variety of experiences, especially when we've had flooding situations, and things like that in Puerto Rico, that getting the feedback from the customer, be it the equipment that we sold to them or the boat, truly help them reach somebody that they didn't think they were going to be able to reach. And getting that feedback from the team members or hearing that story truly just brings purpose, because it's a layer beyond the first responder, is how they impact the community and how that person was actually rescued. Um, and and that is where the whole everything comes full circle.
Love it. What's one question, Paloma, that I didn't ask you that you're like, man, he should have asked me this question. This is the question I really wanted to answer during this podcast. What's one question I didn't ask you that I should have?
Well, during the whole process in working with the business, I found my passion project, which was to build a community for successors in family businesses. And so I founded Gen2 Plus, because throughout my career, my trajectory, I realized the importance and the value that network and community had for me. And I wanted to give that to others that were in family business and didn't know who to talk to, because it's really hard to complain about your father or your husband or
Mm.
your brother, or your uncle when you are in, because there are organizations like, obviously EO, or other local entrepreneurial associations and things, but it is such a particular circumstance to have that layer of familiarity and complexity of having all those feelings for somebody that you then have to see on the weekends or in bed at night. And so being able to connect as a group, that I've built, and give us support and give us resources to make sure that we have the best capable and prepared leaders to lead the next generation of family business in Puerto Rico has been extremely important to me and what I'm doing, and it feeds my role, and that feeds back and forth. And I've just strengthened my relationships in the island, and we also have a greater impact of making sure that family businesses don't die in a period in time where boomers are starting to retire and figuring out what to do. So that is something that I'm working on and I'm really passionate about. So yeah, building Gen2 Plus.
I love that. So tell me, where does somebody tell me the name of the organization? Where do people find information? And specifically, who needs to see this? Who needs to hear this? Who needs to learn more about this?
If you're a successor in a family business, second generation, third generation, or beyond, and you have recently joined the business or are in the process of succession planning, with the founders or the current leading generation, this is for you. And it's in particular, and I built it because there's not a lot of resources for family business in Puerto Rico or in Spanish. And so it was also that need to have something native in Spanish that people locally could connect to. But if you are a family, you're a member of family business in general, you can follow us, and we're on Instagram and Meta at Gen, the number 2 plus spelled out, Gen2 Plus. And we post our events. I post tidbits. I highlight stories of leaders, successors that are leading the transition, and what their experiences have been. And it's all about learning from experience and not theory.
Love that. Love that. Well, Paloma, thank you so much. And for everybody watching this, there's one thing that obviously comes through, Paloma, your passion, your authenticity, your genuine approach to the business, and you're also on the cutting edge with technology. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to your family for navigating this, and then also creating resources for other family generational businesses who have those complications of running a business with their brother, sister, wife, husband, significant other, whoever it is. Those are significant challenges. So you've not only run a successful business, but created resources for other business owners. So you can find more about Paladius at Paladius.com. And where can people find you personally online?
LinkedIn, Paloma Riego, Paloma del Mar Riego. And on Meta, I am at Priego, Priego. We love to
Excellent.
connect. Yep.
Make sure if you like this episode, share, subscribe, share it with somebody that needs to see this. And Paloma, from all of us at X100 and Game Changers, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Looking forward to Wednesday's cohort.
Yeah.